Okay, so now we're going to work on instruction set 3, the circuit board. And the circuit board requires these parts. It's a little bluish, purplish circuit board here. It doesn't have any chips or anything on it. It's just a blank circuit board. You need the 12-pin connector, and that's with the pin sticking out this side and on pin sticking out that side. The 3-pin connector, the 2.7 ohm resistor, 1 watt resistor, the little white connector here that'll connect into the power supply, I believe, and this potentiometer, the little blue thing here that's the resistor. So we're going to put all those, install those here into this circuit board. It's kind of difficult to solder that, so make sure you've practiced and make sure you're ready to go, because if you mess it up, then you'll have to get a new circuit board. Now, the first thing it says to do is to cut your pins, cut your connectors into the right length. But those are already going to be cut for you, right? I'm going to give you one that's 3 pins long and one that's 12 pins long. You're also going to have one that's 6 pins long, but that goes to the other part. So you've already done that part. That part's already going to be done for you. So don't worry about that part. And that's steps like 2, 3, and 4 in the sheet there. So we're going to start with step 6 and put the 3-pin header in the PC board. Now make sure that your PC board is turned the right way, right? Make sure that it's turned the correct way for the pins to go in. And being in the right way means that you can see this printing here. You can see the little plus sign there and the resistor on this side. You can see the printing of the resistor on this side. You can't see it on the other side, right? It's got the manufacturer on that or something. So on this side, and then I take this 3-pin connector here and I link it into that side. Right, if you do it upside down, then it's not going to work out so well. So putting it into that side, and then I turn it over and solder it in. Of course mine fell out, but I'll turn that over and solder it together. So once again, when you're soldering, it's important to use the flux paste. So I'm going to grab a little bit of flux paste here, and I'm just going to dab it right on where the holes are in that 3-pin outlet there. Just need a little tiny bit. Dab it right on the holes there, and then when I put the part through, it goes through like this. That's the top side. It goes through right here. Then there'll be flux on the pins. And I can set it down right there and use my soldering iron to solder it right together. Okay, the next part is step 9, and that's putting your resistor into the circuit board. Now you have to be careful because the resistor is slightly bigger than the space for it on the circuit board. So you have to be real careful about getting it centered on there if you can, and twisting the wires so that it fits kind of in there. And it's probably best to do this with your fingers rather than try to do it with the pliers. And I'll show you why. Because if you grab a hold of the resistor with the pliers, it rips the insulation off like I've done here, which means you'll have to order a new resistor. So try to do it with your fingers. Just press it down there kind of gently, and you can see that mine's kind of in there. If you look at the picture on the document, step 9, you'll see that it's the wires are kind of bent. So you can do that, and then maybe use the pliers on the other side to pull them in tight, make sure that everything's in the right spot. But you got to be a little bit careful about that because you don't want to break anything, and the resistor is kind of fragile. So once you've got the resistor in place, make sure that it's in the correct holes right on either side of that printed part of the resistor there. Look very closely at the document to make sure you've got it in the right spot. You can go ahead and solder it into place. Actually, before you solder the resistor in place, I'm going to suggest you go ahead and put the potentiometer in place, because then you can solder everything at the same time. The potentiometer is this little blue thing, and it fits in these 3 holes that are next to the resistor. Right, so it's real kind of tight there with the other one. So we're going to put it in there so that it sits right next to the resistor. And you'll notice that the hole with the resistor in it and one of the legs of the potentiometer are connected together by the circuit board, right? So you can put one piece of solder right on there. That may make it a little bit easier for you to solder. And once you're done soldering them all in place, just go ahead and clip the wires off from the resistor so that they're nice and neat. And everything's all soldered into place. So I've got my resistor and my potentiometer in place. Okay, the next piece is going to be this small connector jack, and it goes right here on the end with the two little holes in it, right into the PC board just like that. So it sits right there. There's only two holes there, so you can't get that one wrong. It goes right there. It only goes in one way. It's got to stick off the board a little bit, right? You don't want it to be backward. You want it to be like that so it can plug something right into it. And then last but certainly not least, we'll put our 12-pin header in here, right? That's this piece, and we'll put it right here. Let's see, this has got to look this way from the, I'm looking at the instructions, and then it sits in like this. Make sure you get it in the correct side, right? So make sure you're looking at the diagram there. Make sure you're looking at the way it's supposed to look in the picture. Did I have it backward? Make sure you get it the right way from the picture, so to make sure that you have it going the right way. If you look right at the bottom of page 6, you'll see a picture of this little circuit board looked like that, and that this 12-pin header comes up from underneath in that picture, so that you know exactly where to solder it. Because if you put it upside down or you put it on the wrong side, then it's not going to connect in properly. Again, just as a tip, take some of the flux paste on your solder and on your little bit of solder there, and put some flux around each one of those little holes before you put the pins through. That way the soldering flux will be in the right spot, and you'll be able to solder it a little bit easier. Don't need a whole lot of it, but a little bit around each copper spot there will help you with the soldering. Okay, next we're going to connect the little push button switch into our circuit board. Now you've been given a long piece of ribbon wire, but the instructions really say that it should be 10 inches. So I probably have given you more in case you need to play around with it a little bit more, or in case you needed to cut some more off here. But I'm going to try to cut it to about 10 inches. That way we don't have a lot of excess inside of the machine. Right? So we want to cut that length to be about 10 inches. I'm going to give myself another ½ inch to work with to strip it, but should cut it to about 10 inches. So get out your ruler and cut it. And just a little tip when you're stripping the wires here, you want to strip them a little bit longer than you think you're going to need, and then twist them together like this with just your fingers. Just grab a hold of the ends and twist them together. That way the strands of wire, the copper or aluminum, whatever's in here, will kind of stick together like that, and then it makes it easier to put them in the circuit board. So once you get it all put together, then this piece here should fit right inside there, or right over it, whatever. And it should look just like that. Once you have that all put together, then you're ready to move on.